Well, I started with Saab as general manager, sales and marketing in 1980. I had a great job at Volvo at the time. I was national sales manager, but I had worked with Bob at Volvo for like 15 years on the West Coast, and we had a great working relationship. We were thinking the same way of how things should be done in business, you know, how to deal with the dealers, how to treat them. So we had a basic philosophy was the same. So when I came, he had become president of Saab '79, I think, and then I came east as national sales manager for Volvo. And we stayed in touch. And he used to call me and say, you know, we're having a good time at Saab, you know, I think this can happen here. And I said, well, we're having a great time at Volvo. We were selling cars like crazy. Everything was fine. But then we met, and one thing led to another. And he said, what really made me think about coming over, well, there were two things. I came home from the Volvo office one day, and there is a Saab Turbo parked in our driveway, you know, working for Volvo. So I asked my wife, what's this? It was that ugly white, Saab white, you remember, that was greenish kind of thing? So I said, what's this? Oh, it's a note from Sinclair. He said, oh, okay. So I opened up the note and I said, hi, Sten, hope you're having a good time. Here is something that, you know, you may enjoy driving. You can keep it as long as you want. And, you know, see what you think about it. But remember, he said, you know, you've been driving Volvos for so long, and it's impossible to get a speeding ticket with a Volvo. But with this thing, you can really get a speeding ticket. So I drove that thing, and then we met, and we agreed that I had nothing negative with Volvo. I had a great career with Volvo. But the possibility of do the same thing, we really did a good job at Volvo, building up a dealer organization, particularly in the western half of the country. And if we could do that again with Saab, you know, I was Swedish, I could do good things for both Swedish car companies, so why not? So I joined him, and I remember I asked him, you know, general questions about how the business was going. And do you have any inventory? Do you have any cars? Yeah, we have some, he said. Yeah, so I joined, and then after I'd been there a month, I asked Andy Lugris, who was our distribution manager, and he took me up to the port in what was the name? That was in Providence, Rhode Island, right? Yeah. So I said, oh, you know, I want to meet those guys who process the cars and things. Then what we have up there. So I come up and meet these guys and say hi. Oh, do you want to see where the cars are located? Yeah, I say, yeah, it would be nice. So he's taking me out to a lot, and there are cars, Saab cars, you know, as far as you can see, and they're all green and red. You remember those colors. And I said, what the hell is this? What is all these cars? Oh, that's inventory. And so we come back and say, that was lot A. Would you like to see lot B? I said, no, I don't want to see that. So when I got back to Orange, going to Sinclair, and said, well, yeah, you know, you didn't lie to me. You said you had some, but a lot of inventory, a lot of inventory. So the first real business decision then was, we had cars everywhere, you know, dealer inventory, we had cars in inventory. So I told Bob, after I had a chance to look at things, I think the plan called for the '81 model year that we had 18,000 cars in the importation plan, production plan. So looking at things, I said, you know, to get this in balance, I said, one car over 10,000 is one too many. And he goes crazy. He said, what are you talking about? You know, they didn't hire me and you to slow down production, cut production. We are here to sell cars, more cars. So I reminded him of Gunnar Engelo. He was the head of Volvo when I joined Volvo in Sweden, and Bob joined Volvo in America. And he was our hero. He was the super guy. And he used to say, boys, remember, there has to be suction in the system, you know, meaning the cars go in and out. Because if you deal from inventory, you don't deal from strength. So Bob said, yeah, but 10,000 compared to 18,000, you know. So we compromised 11,000. And then we went over and presented this. That's the first time I meet these guys, big shots in Sweden, you know, the savior now from Volvo, who knew how to do things together with Sinclair, of course. So that was a long, drawn-out meeting, but they finally bought it. And they cut the production. We got things in balance, you remember. Mm-hmm. And then we started 81 model year, 82, we started with an allocation system, and the dealers thought that was very funny. What do you mean? I can always call up and get a car if I want one, right? Well, you know, not anymore. We're trying to get this done right. And then things started, and we had an allocation system, and the dealers, you know, they got their fair share, but that's all they could get. And then we started to make money, and then we started with all the sales records, and then the gross profits and everything came with that. So it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun.
So this was called the 60 consecutive months of growth, starting in '82?
That's what it was, yeah.
So you essentially created a platform for that growth, or do you think it were other factors, advertising, products?
Oh, everything. Well, first of all, you know, you need good people to make these things happen. And my experience with Bob from the Volvo days was that he was an extraordinary talent to enthuse people and make them work hard and really enjoy what they were doing. And of course, he had created the same thing at Saab. Also, many of our colleagues at Saab, before Bob came, were totally dedicated to the product. I've never seen anything like it in my career, either at Volvo or Mercedes. I mean, so totally dedicated to the product and the company. So I mean, that base was there. Everybody was enthusiastic, and once we got, I think one of the key decisions was that to get away from having to push cars on dealers, that they had to get allocation. They actually called for cars, you know, give us cars, we can sell more cars and make more money. That's where you want to get to. And I think that was the key that got things going, and the enthusiasm. And also the way we treated the dealers, which went through the whole organization, our district manager and everything. I said, you know, don't promise anything you can't keep. Don't, if we have bad news, which sometimes you do have in the business, in any business, don't hide it. Tell the dealers, because they are the ones who make the investments. You know, we don't make the investments. They make investments in the dealerships. So they have to know so they can run their business. And that's, I think, some of the ingredients that made it successful. And that the dealers believed us. You know, they had trust in us, trust in Sinclair and the whole management group and everybody. Because we showed, we didn't just stand up and say, we're going to do this. We did it, and you know, the proof was in the pudding.
And you had the 900 product line when you came on board.
I'm sorry?
The Saab 900 product line when you came on board.
Right.
And then I guess the Saab 9000 came in. Can you tell us about that launch and where that was, what took place there, how important that was?
Yeah, sure. We had, that was in 1985. So it was part of the, during the time of setting all the sales records. So sales were good, the dealers were happy. And we had, I think, the best I've been to in my career, many dealer meetings. And this was probably one of the best ones. We had like 1,200 people there. All the dealers were there, their general managers and the wives, and you know, because we really had something to talk about with the new 9000. And it was just a great get-together, and everybody left there very enthused, and you know, it set the stage for a successful launch of the 9000.
And I guess there was a later version of the 9000, which was the CD. Can you share us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean the feeling, primarily amongst the Swedish management, I think, was that we had to have a sedan in addition to the hatchback. You know, that was what Saab was all about, the hatchback. You know, we were known for. And of course, the first 9000 was the hatchback. But they felt we needed to compete with the sedans and with the BMWs and maybe, to a degree, Mercedes and Volvo for sure. So they wanted to have a sedan, and then we had the This was, when was this? This was in 85.
For the CD?
Yeah.
The 88 or?
88 maybe, yeah. Yeah. Well, we combined that with, we took all the dealers who qualified, we had a sales contest, and that was about 80% of the dealer organization. We took them to Sweden in 2 groups, 1 week each, and started that off with introducing the CD in Gothenburg. And that turned out well also.
You had any involvement with the convertible at all when that came about over the course of?
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. There's been a lot of stories about how that happened. But Bob and I were in Sweden for a meeting, worldwide meeting. All the agents from around the world were there, and Swedish management presented a new car, a 2-door 900. 2-door 900.
From Finland.
Yeah. So they said, this is going to be fantastic. You know, we need more volume, and this is going to do it. And again, when we were known for the 3-door, the 2-door hatchback, that was Saab was all about. But what would we do in the U.S. with a 2-door with a regular trunk? I mean, Bob and I didn't understand that at all. But we were the biggest market at the time. So they presented the car, and they went around and asked the importers and subsidiary companies in certain countries how many, off the top of their heads, how many cars they thought they could order initially. And they came up with all kinds of numbers. So he came to Sinclair, and he says this. And of course, Swedish management, very upset with this, the biggest market. And Bob said, you know, I have to tell you, that car is not for the U.S. market. We have established what we are, and that's not what we are. But if you give me a week, I will come back to you and tell you what we're going to do about this. Because we understand, you know, we want to take our share of this production volume. So we go back to the head office in Connecticut, and he calls me into his office, Bob does, and a week after we are back. And he said, I've been in touch with thank you, Heinz Prechter at American Sunroof in Detroit. I shipped two cars over there to see if we could possibly make convertibles out of these cars. And he just came back and said it doesn't take much, some strengthening of the body, of course, but you know, nothing that couldn't be handled quite easily. So I'm ready to answer Wendlo now. He was the head of the Saab at the time. What we're going to do for the U.S. market for these 2-door cars. And Sten Wendlo, all right. So Bob said, you know, I'm going to send him this telex. We were communicating by telex at the time. He said, we'll take 5,000 of the 2-door 900, ... as long as they don't have a roof, right? And then he smiled and says, now, it's going to be about 5 minutes after he has received this telex. You're going to have a call from Sten Wendlo. And it took maybe 4 minutes. So Wendlo is on the phone and he says, Bob, what is this, Bob? What are you talking about? No roof cars. We don't make that. And Bob said, no, but I think you should. I checked with Prechter and it's doable. And then that led to the birth of the convertible, which became very successful.
We have another question here about the convertible. The prototype cabriolet, as it was called in Europe, launched, I guess, stateside or showcased at what was called the Saab Olympics.
Yeah, we had the Saab Olympics in connection with the Rio Olympics in LA in 1984, was it? Yeah. And we had salesmen from God all over the world. And that was the introduction of the Saab convertible. And when that came out, I think Sten Gustafsson was driving it.
He was driving it. It was the first time it had been seen in public, I think.
And of course, you know, the whole Saab sales force from around the world see this for the first time and go totally apeshit, crazy about that. So that was Sinclair's doing. You know? He was the creator of it, and it became and of course lent excitement to the whole line, you know, and really put Saab on the map.
What was the most important time, I guess, when you look back at your experience? What made you the happiest? What just kind of stands out amongst everything? Was there one thing, or were there many things?
No, it was the satisfaction of being able to implement your philosophy, Bob's philosophy, my philosophy, you know, with the people we work with, our colleagues, and the dealers, and make this happen. I mean, Saab was a very profitable franchise at the time, and also it was also very rewarding that J.D. Power, they used to have, I think they still do, survey the dealers, how happy they are with their manufacturers, and little Saab. I mean, we were number one 3 or 4 years in a row there, you know, which is another indication that shows that we did it right, because the dealers appreciated it, and it led to the right things. We were selling obviously more cars. We went from like 13,000 cars to just about 50,000 in 1986, and I mean, you know, they were making and never made any money in Sweden for Saab, on Saab, until probably 80, 84, 85, 86. So I mean, it was really, something was happening, and it's exciting.
And the last product launch, was that the 9000 CD that we just discussed, or were there others as we started getting in?
No, that's when I left when GM came in, you know, 50%, and suggested we were going to move the company to Atlanta.
And that was a couple of years after they made the announcement in '89, correct?
That's right. That was in 91. Right.
Fall of 91.
Yeah, and you know, we had hired one of the most highly regarded consulting companies in Boston about this, because we in the group management group couldn't see it. We needed to adjust the size of the organization. No, obviously, we realized that, but to move it out of there, we couldn't see that, and neither could this consulting company in Boston. So when the decision came that we are moving, I was president at the time. They wanted me to move the company to Atlanta. I said, no, I'm out of here. So that's when Sinclair and I, we had planned his retirement party. I think it was in August of '91. And about 3 weeks before, we added one more list to the retirees, if you will. And that was mine, because I made that decision. And they gave Bob and me an opportunity to celebrate, 24 years of working together very closely at Volvo and Saab. It was one hell of a ride together, because we had, you know, mutual respect for each other, and thoroughly enjoyed what we were doing. So it was a great ending, closure, if you will, of our relationship.
Hi, I wish I could be there with you in Strasbourg to share in the excitement of the preparation for the introduction of the Saab 9000 in Europe. In the United States, we have to wait for the 9000 introduction until the 1986 model year. In the meantime, things are going very well here in America with the 900 models. Let me review with you our sales development over recent years. In 1980, we sold 13,000 cars. In 1981, 14,500. In 1982, 18,200. 1983, 25,800. And for 1984, we are projecting sales of 32,000 cars. There are, of course, many contributing factors to our sales progress in the United States. We have a good car. We have a good competitive car. However, the biggest contributor to our progress in America is, of course, the Saab dealer. In 1980, we put together a program that we called the Saab Dealer Development Program. What this dealer development plan is all about is that it is a complete review of a dealership operation. We gave this to our dealers, and we asked them to sit down with their managers and review each department in the dealership. If there were out-of-line situations, we wanted them to mark those, and those were to be discussed with the representatives of Saab Scania of America in subsequent meetings. Our field force also did the same thing for each individual dealer, and at the meetings, subsequent meetings, a comparison was then done on how the dealer saw his operation and how we saw his operation. We also established yearly objectives in car sales, parts and accessory sales, and labor sales. The key in establishing these objectives was that they were realistic objectives. We didn't want any dream numbers, and above all, that they were mutually agreed on between us and the dealers as doable. I credit a large portion of our progress to this close cooperation with our dealers that was made possible through this dealer development plan. For 1984 and 1985 in our dealer development plan, we are concentrating on upgrading dealership facilities. Like you, we are competing head-on with BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Volvo, and Peugeot. It is imperative that our Saab dealers are in facilities that reflect the upscale product that they are selling to a very discriminating buyer. We cannot be inferior to our competition when it comes to facilities. You should know that the dealer makes the investment in the dealership himself. I would now like to show you some of the typical Saab dealerships in the United States. This is an exclusive Saab dealership selling about 180 cars. The building you're looking at is where he started 25 years ago. He had a one-car showroom and 2 service stalls. This is how that dealership looks today. The building you saw on the first slide is over in the right-hand corner. He has acquired additional land and built a showroom for Saab, which, as you see, looks very attractive. When we go into a dealership like this, we want a separate showroom for Saab, which you see here, very attractive. We also want separate facilities for Saab service and also for Saab spare parts. Here you see a Saab dealership dualed with Mercedes-Benz. The same philosophy goes through here. We want a separate showroom for Saab, and as you can see, it is a very attractive display of Saab automobiles. This is a Saab dealership on Manhattan in New York. We have our own section in the showroom. The cars are very nicely displayed. We are pushing very hard for the dealers to have the boutiques where they sell accessories, and that has been a very successful program for our Saab dealers in this country. They're making a lot of additional money on that. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Ray Van Doren. Mr. Van Doren, a couple of months ago, opened up his new exclusive Saab dealership with an investment of close to $1.5 million.
This is our new facility, a long-time dream in contemporary design to complement the advanced technology of the Saab automobile. The interior consists of marble floors, crystal chandeliers, black ceilings, to make it comfortable for both our customers and our employees. A question which might come to mind is why I would commit to substantial investment in the Saab franchise. Due to the tremendous improvement in quality, engineering, and product acceptance in the United States, I have generated large profits and created demand that exceeded my new car inventory. On a service point of view, the Saab accessory program, dedicated delivery, and a demand for customer satisfaction has more than improved my parts and service profits. In my opinion, part of sustaining Saab's success is an intelligent, knowledgeable, and personable sales force in each showroom. We at Ramsey Saab are willing to maintain our customer satisfaction, high volume of sales, and hopefully we can be a good example to Saab Scania of what a Saab dealership could be. On behalf of the Saab dealers of the United States, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you a successful launch of the new Saab 9000. We are anxiously awaiting the arrival of the new edition in the United States to further enhance our franchise in the 1986 model year.